John Carmack has left the metaverse. What a disaster. Meta appears to be imploding, and it shows no signs of slowing down. One person on Facebook said the following after reading John's post. The internal politics at Facebook must be horrific if John frickin' Carmack can't get his technical vision adopted. Good luck, Zuck, I guess. He's right. The politics are horrific. I've seen many good people leaving Meta over the last few years. John was not the first, and he won't be the last. But this is different, because it's John Carmack.
Houston, we have a problem.
In his post, John points out a lot of things that are busted at Meta. He talks about efficiency. Spoiler, he's right. He also mentions the team needing to fill their products with give a damn, or as I like to call it, love. But the biggest issue is this. Carmack writes, "It has been a struggle for me. I have a voice at the highest levels here, so it feels like I should be able to move things, but I'm evidently not persuasive enough. A good fraction of the things I complain about eventually turn my way after a year or two passes and evidence piles up, but I have never been able to kill stupid things before they cause damage, or set a direction and have a team actually stick to it. The tech industry has been rocked by layoffs. People are understandably worried about losing their jobs. They're not going to speak up and state unpopular opinions in this environment, and that's the problem. You can't solve the technical challenges around the metaverse in an environment of oppression. That's why you need people like John. He will say what everyone is thinking, but afraid to say.
I believe pretty strongly in being very frank and open about flaws and the limitations. So this is kind of where I go off message a little bit from the standard PR plan and talk very frankly about things.
This is why they put this disclaimer on the front of every John Carmack talk, because he speaks what he believes. The other executives have script writers that will tell them what to say. John's authenticity is powerful, and developers love it. Here's one example from the past. Before Twitter, there were .plan files. Here's what John had to say about Direct3D. This was Microsoft's first version of their graphics API. Direct3D, in my opinion, is a horribly broken API. It inflicts great pain and suffering on the programmers using it without returning any significant advantages. There is no good technical reason for the existence of D3D. I'm sure D3D will suck less with each forthcoming version, but this is an opportunity to just bypass dragging the entire development community through the messy evolution of an ill-birthed API. I've known John Carmack for a long time. I first met him when I was setting up the Xbox Advisory Board. I asked him to join, and he agreed. What I love about John was that he thought deeply about Xbox and he challenged our ideas. We didn't always agree, and sometimes the delivery was direct, but his feedback was honest. I never had to wonder what he was thinking. There were no politics. John was never in it for John. By the time I knew John, he had plenty of money, fame, and status. And yet he worked hard or harder than most people. It was about making the best product, not about being in control or pushing his agenda. If decisions didn't go his way, he would still disagree, but he would commit and we'd move forward. When I joined Oculus, John was there and again leading the charge. He hadn't changed a bit. In 2015, I had the honor of introducing him at his GDC talk. Here's what I had to say about him then.
Good morning. Welcome. I'm Laura Fryer, and I work at Oculus. And you know, I've known John about 15 years. When we were setting up the Xbox Advisory Board, that's when we met, because of course, John was the first person we called. A few days ago, someone asked me if I would go ahead and introduce John, and of course I said yes. I mean, it is the easiest job on the planet, right? I mean, everybody knows who John Carmack is. Of course, it's a funny thing because it's actually a really hard job, because everybody knows who John Carmack is. I mean, you guys know about Doom and Quake and the rockets. You know that John has been on the cutting edge of technology for almost his entire life. I mean, that's why we're all here. But what you may not know about John is why he's so successful. And John has a lot of great traits, but I'm just going to cover two. The first is John works incredibly hard. He is one of the most productive people I have personally ever met in the games industry. And the other reason is that John has the heart of a scientist. He wants to collect the data. If John wonders if Direction 1 or Direction 2 is the right thing to do, he doesn't spend his time in theoretical hand-wringing. He tries it, right? He goes out, he does the experiment, he collects the data, and best of all, he shares it with all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming John Carmack.
At Oculus, John and I had some disagreements. For example, I remember being at an Oculus leadership meeting and John was asking to move the artists that were working on Farlands to work on the avatars for Gear VR. I was the person leading the Farlands team and I disagreed. At the first break that day, we met in a corner to hash things out. I explained to him that we could move these artists to do that work, but it wasn't going to be a long-term solution. Talented 3D artists are inspired by working on high-end, beautiful models. They aren't inspired by doing low-fidelity art. I knew that I could ask them to step in and they'd do the work, which they did. But if we didn't let them move back, they'd likely take their talent elsewhere. Incidentally, this is true of programmers too. A competent graphics coder can easily write the setup code for an application, but they won't love being the setup guy forever. The conversation went well and John understood the points. For John, it was never about being right, it was about doing the right thing. This is probably the biggest disconnect I see between employees in big tech and their leadership. The best employees are there because they love the product. They love what they do. I've never met an excellent programmer that didn't love writing code. They don't exist in my experience. If you don't love to code, you never become great at it. Having leaders that care about the product and the people is refreshing. This is why people love Carmack. They know he's coming at problems from a position of love. Oculus leadership loved the product too, and I think that is why they were held in high regard. I remember we'd get stuck on an issue at a leadership meeting, and we'd come back from the break, and Brendan would ask one question: what's the best thing for VR? Of course, no leaders are perfect. No person is perfect. To evaluate a leader, you have to ask questions. Are they ethical? Do they encourage feedback or shut it down? Do they tell the truth when it's difficult? Do they care about the team? Do they care about the customers? Are they pursuing their own goals over the team or company? Do they treat people fairly? Do they love the product? Do they love what they do? Sadly, many leaders in these companies are pursuing their own goals. For many, it's about authority, control, power, status, fame, and in the case of Twitter, apparently, ideology. And the pursuit of those goals introduces politics, drama, and it shuts down feedback loops. A healthy feedback loop is difficult to create and maintain. It's easy to shut it down and live in a bubble. You can be going along thinking things are fine, when in reality, they're on fire. Great products don't get built in that bubble. The fish can't see the water. In my experience, only teams that can see the issues, the truth and reality of where they are, succeed. Silencing voices that disagree with your beliefs will ultimately destroy you. To win, you have to be in a constant learning mode to survive, and companies that aren't learning and growing are by definition dying. Every year at Oculus Connect, John Carmack would do a talk, and afterwards he would be at the event, and there would be people following him and asking questions. This happens at all of the conferences, but this was a little bit different because it was not just a few people. It was more like 30. I used to call it the John Tourage, and it went on the entire conference. He would spend the whole day talking to developers and sharing his ideas and experiences. It was unusual to have someone at his level so giving and willing to engage. It felt like he was the spiritual leader of VR, and I suppose he was. That became even more the case after Palmer left. John loved the discussion, he loved helping the developers, and they loved him right back.
Hi, John. I'm Reed. This is the last question. So I just wanted to say this is going to be an easy thing. So for the last 20 years of my life, you've been such an inspiration to me. I've had some times of darkness, and it's been amazing. Today's my birthday. I would I would love to like go up there and if someone could take a picture of me with you, that's all I ask.
Come on out.
Losing Carmack is another big blow to Meta's aspirations. He's exactly the leader you want involved in the metaverse. You want a leader that loves the technology, that loves the product, a leader that works tirelessly, a leader that is willing to say the truth even when it's unpopular. But alas, John is gone, and I guess we'll see what happens. I just can't imagine how you win when you can't keep someone like John Carmack on your team.